Picture this. Your teenage daughter is at the market on her birthday, clutching a little bag of chocolates, when suddenly 6 grown women corner her. They call her unchristian, accuse her of being heartless, and demand she forgive her cheating father's parents. She's crying, terrified. And when you run to save her, they turn on you. That was my life, and those women had no idea they had just started a war. What they didn't know was that I had the perfect revenge plan. And when I pulled it off, their entire church turned against them. If you've ever wished karma would finally show up for the people who wronged you, smash that like button, because this story is one of the most satisfying revenges I've ever pulled off. And believe me, you're going to want to hear every detail. My name is Sarah. I'm 46, and I'm raising 2 teenage daughters, Anna, 17, and Lily, 15. Last year, tragedy ripped through our family. My ex-husband, who I had been divorcing, died suddenly in an accident. And if that weren't enough, the crash also killed the woman he'd been cheating on me with. It was in those awful, confusing days after his death that my daughters discovered something they never should have had to face. Their father's affair had produced 2 little boys, 2 innocent children, who were now also orphans. The girls had been the ones who uncovered his affair in the first place. They had carried the trauma of telling me, watching my marriage collapse, and then being blamed for it. Now to them, these boys weren't just half-siblings. They were symbols of betrayal. Pain they couldn't process, and as if grief and betrayal weren't enough, my ex-in-laws, his parents, Margaret and George, 78 and 80, decided to wage war. They filed for custody of my daughters. They tried to move into our house. They demanded my girls step up as big sisters to their father's secret children. Imagine grieving, teenagers barely holding it together, being told to embrace the offspring of the woman who helped destroy their family. I was furious, protective, but mostly I was exhausted. For weeks we had been living under a storm cloud of lawyers, therapy sessions and whispered gossip. So when my youngest birthday rolled around, I wanted just for one day for her to feel normal. We went to the weekend farmers market. If you've ever been, you know the feeling. Stalls overflowing with fresh fruit, the smell of baked bread, the chatter of families. My daughter lit up, darting from stall to stall, picking chocolates and sweets with the birthday budget I gave her. For the first time in a long time, she looked like a carefree 15-year-old again, but after an hour I started to worry. She hadn't come back. Just as I reached for my phone, it rang. It was her. Her voice was shaking. She was crying. Mom. Some women won't let me leave. They're saying I'm going to hell. My blood froze. I grabbed Anna's hand and we ran, and then I saw it. My youngest, tiny, terrified, clutching a bag of candy, was surrounded. 6 older women, faces hard as stone, fingers jabbing toward her. They weren't strangers. I recognized some of them. My ex-in-law's church friends. One of them hissed, "How dare you turn your back on your grandparents? How dare you reject your baby brothers?" My daughter's face crumpled. She whispered, "I don't want to talk to them." And that's when one woman snapped, "Unchristian brat!" Something inside me snapped. I pushed through the circle and pulled my daughter behind me. My voice shook, but not with fear. With rage. "Anna, take your sister. Pay for her things. Go to the car. Now." As they hurried away, the women turned their fury on me. "You're worse than your daughters," one spat. "You refuse to obey your husband's parents, like a good Christian wife should." Another leaned in, her eyes glittering with cruelty. "You've poisoned those girls against their family." "Against God." People were staring. Whispers rippled through the market. But the women didn't stop. They screamed until the market staff finally asked us to leave. And as I walked to my car, they followed me. 6 women, like vultures circling prey, hurling insults until I slammed the car door shut. I held the wheel, hands trembling, heart pounding. My daughters cried silently in the back seat, and in that moment I made a silent promise. This ends. Today. That night, after my girls fell asleep, I logged onto Facebook. And there it was. A friend from their church had messaged me. "Sarah, I'm so sorry. You need to see this." My ex-mother-in-law, Margaret, had posted a long dramatic story in the church group. She claimed we had abandoned her and George, that they were penniless, homeless, cast aside by their ungrateful granddaughters. She painted herself as a tragic grandmother, weeping over 2 orphaned boys. And then, the lie that made me feel physically ill, she claimed those boys weren't from an affair at all. No. According to her, those children were from a surrogate I had hired. She told the church I couldn't have more kids, and when the surrogate gave birth to boys, I rejected them out of spite. The comments were full of pity, support, people praising her for her strength. And my daughters? They were being called heartless, damaged, evil. I stared at the screen, my nails biting into my palms, and whispered, "No, not again. Not to my girls." I lay awake all night replaying the years of betrayal. The moment I caught my ex cheating, the day my daughters cried in my arms, begging me not to stay with him, the messages from his parents calling my girls bastards, and then the memory of those 6 women surrounding my baby, making her cry on her birthday. That was my breaking point. I realized I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was fighting for my daughter's dignity, their truth, and if Margaret wanted to drag us through the mud in front of her church, I would show her congregation the real truth. What she didn't know was that I had everything, because when my ex died, our divorce wasn't finalized, and I had collected mountains of evidence. Photos of him with his mistress in our house, screenshots of his texts, dripping with lies, emails from his parents admitting they knew, and worst of all, messages where they bullied my daughters, telling them they were the reason their father died. I decided to turn their own church's gossip machine against them. The next day, I went to a print shop. I spent hours printing everything in glossy, high-quality paper. Then, I sat at my dining table and assembled binders, neat, tidy prayer book lookalikes. The first page? A full-colour photo of my ex and his mistress making out in our living room. Underneath, John and Maria's love story. Every page after that, texts, emails, screenshots, proof of cruelty, proof of lies, proof that the people who called themselves holy had been complicit in tearing my family apart. By the time I was done, I had 6 thick binders, each one carefully labelled, and Sunday morning I walked into that church with my head held high. The air smelled of old wood and candle wax. Voices murmured as people filed in. I walked calmly to the back table, the one stacked with hymn books, and without a word I slipped the binders in. They blended perfectly. No one questioned me. No one stopped me. I walked out, the morning sun on my face, heart pounding with adrenaline. I didn't need to see the fireworks. I already knew. By that afternoon, Facebook was chaos. The gossip mill spun like a hurricane. People had opened the binders, page after page, and realised the truth. The comments were brutal. They called my ex name so vile the pastor had to beg for restraint. They condemned Margaret and George for tormenting my daughters. Screenshots leaked everywhere. Private group chats lit up. The perfect grieving grandparents were suddenly villains. By the end of the week, Margaret and George had been shamed into leaving the church. Their decades of influence, gone overnight, and the irony? Even after seeing the truth, some church members still tried to blame me for the divorce. But then, letters started arriving, apologies, handwritten notes addressed to my daughters saying things like, "We were wrong. We're so sorry." One family even invited us back to church, promising support. As for Margaret, she posted one last desperate Facebook rant. She claimed she was alienated, that no one cares for the elderly anymore, and that her great son would have taken care of her. But everyone knew better. Everyone had seen the truth. That night, as I tucked my daughters into bed, they looked lighter, relieved. They knew the world finally saw them for what they were, victims of betrayal, not villains. And me? I realized something. Revenge doesn't always mean destroying someone's life. Sometimes it's about defending the people you love, about taking back the narrative and forcing the truth into the light. Margaret thought she could use her church to shame us. Instead, her lies became her downfall. So tell me, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen or even pulled off yourself? Drop it in the comments, I read everyone. And if you love stories where karma comes full circle, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, the next story will leave you speechless.